chapters. This one is about, I think it's 9 pages, thereabout. So it is very short. So again, you want to read the material before coming to class. We have the tutorial right here. We have our Q&A, and then you could revisit it again for about 30 minutes. So if you see it actually 3 times, then something will sink. Even if it's just 60%, and then when we do the review later on, that's another 30-40%, so it's really covered. Yeah? So the areas of discussion: terrorist financing, an overview, brief overview again. International strategy on terrorist financing, because there are international standards on how we can deal with this phenom called terrorist financing and terrorism. And we see every day on TV where some plane is getting blown up, someone is strapping TNT or C4 explosives to themselves, or they just drive a car into some embassy, or they just go into a mall with AK-47, they start shooting up one another and all that craziness. There's a method behind the madness, and it all got something to do with this thing called money and financing. You don't just carry out these acts without some kind of funding, even if it's a small amount. You have to generate some kind of revenue to carry out these type of acts, whether it's direct or indirect. Whether you work to get the money, or you got it by means of charity, or some philanthropist, or someone unwittingly gave you money, or someone may come up to you with a sponsorship. I need for a cause and you don't even know. But the monies have to be drummed up in order to carry these acts. So we'll touch on what are sanctions. You do have a legal obligation, whether it's personal liability or your institution, as it relates to sanctions. Don't think again, because we're in the Bahamas, we're at our comfortable little financial institution. You know, it's a buffer. You know, it doesn't affect us. Those international requirements, those international standards have regional implications. Blacklisted, for example, you're not doing enough in the fight, and that can trickle down to, on a micro level, various institutions. Because if one institution doesn't have effective policies and procedures, another one, and then the act is being facilitated, the jurisdiction is blackballed, ultimately blacklisted. Yeah. So it starts with one institution and then the next institution. So all of us have to be compliant. Yeah. And then the consequences for non-compliance. There's the flip side. It's a good thing. When you're being compliant, you're never really rewarded. But boy, when you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing, the whole world knows about it. You get blacklisted. You're in high risk. There's peer reviews, remediation, constant checkups and all that stuff. So when you're doing well in compliance, you're doing a good job. Yeah. But let something go bad. Oh Lord, compliance missed that? Yeah, ultimately comes back to compliance or your risk management team. And then I'm going to throw in 1 or 2 case studies I would have seen. There have been 1 or 2 successful cases, and one in particular I have in there. So, we're going to touch on terrorism again. I'm sure you went through this before. You know what terrorism is. And don't get confused, we have domestic and we have international terrorists too now. Because you could have a street gang that's raining terror on the streets of New Providence or something. That's domestic terrorism. Yeah? So it goes back to, hey, how you? Hey, good day. The register should be coming around in a bit there, just when you get a chance. If not now, before you leave to sign it. So our topic for the day, terrorism and sanctioning. It's just a follow-up as laid out in your guidance here. This is really just a quick refresher, because you would have done this in part 1 on terrorism and how it relates to our jurisdiction and your financial institution, and also your personal liability. So what is terrorist financing? Well, first and foremost, you need to know who a terrorist is. Someone who wants to advance their cause or belief. This could actually be an individual, or it could actually be a group. Yeah? And like I said, you would have seen a lot of these acts. Hey, a lot of these acts, because if you turn to CNN or Fox, you'll see every day or any other day, you'll see there was some terrorist act carrying out worldwide. So it's not going to stop in our lifetime, because people want to advance their cause. And carrying out terrorist acts is actually like a leverage. They can actually threaten a whole country or society. Look here, we want this, meet our demands, or else we'll do this, or we'll do that. That's a threat. That's a terrorist act. Yeah? So they pretty much either make threats or they live up to their threats. And ultimately it's usually killing people. Yeah? Blowing up buildings and all that good stuff. So what is terrorist financing? You know what a terrorist is. You know they carry out these terrorist acts, which are usually killing people or blowing up real property. But you need money to carry out these terrorist acts. You need funding. And a running joke we have is that, I don't know if it's really a joke, but you don't buy explosives on credit. Because if you're going to blow up yourself, when you can pay me back? You probably ain't going to pay me back, right? So, yeah, you need funding to carry out these acts. And I would have given you some modules in other sessions where, a case in point 9/11, I think I have that as a scenario in here, so I don't really have to get too deep into that. But we know 9/11, the monies came in from a high-risk jurisdiction. But the thing is this, it wasn't a high-risk jurisdiction before the 9/11. 9/11 opened our eyes to a lot of stuff. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, a lot of monies came in from these sympathizers of terrorists. They were funding these guys, in particular the Bin Laden family. Monies were coming from Saudi Arabia, hitting their accounts, and they used these funds to go to flight navigation school, they pay for their apartments, their meals, transportation. All their needs were being met. And the only thing they had to do was just go learn how to fly a plane and carry out the monarch on one day. And they were planning that for several years. So it didn't just happen overnight. In many instances, terrorists have something we don't have. Time and resources. We don't have unlimited time. Yeah? That's a given. And these guys sit down all day and they practice. If you've seen some of the tapes, they practice beheading. They practice how to blow themselves up properly. I don't even know how you do that. I mean, you just click the button. But they practice this stuff with the explosive vests on the proper way to detonate and all that stuff. The shoe bomber, you remember that guy with the explosive in his shoe? Who was on the plane, I think was going to Florida a couple of years back. He didn't properly set off the detonator. And and the passengers jumping quick. And I mean, it was a good thing because he had explosive in his shoe. But you need resources to carry these type of acts. Yeah? So terrorists, individuals, all group or organizations require revenue. You need money. Yeah? Whether it's direct or indirect to finance their operations and also the weapons and military devices to conduct their operations. According to the IMF again, you remember we've been talking about the IMF a lot lately because they do a lot of reports. And even though FATF is the standard bearer for money laundering and terrorist financing, they have taken it upon themselves to also engage and be a partner with the FATF in doing these type of reviews on countries. So they do research also. According to the IMF, terrorist financing involves the solicitation, yes, they do beg. They beg for money. And sometimes they have these, what they call front charities, that actually are used just to facilitate raising funds for terrorist acts, collection, or provision of funds with intent. And with terrorist financing, there's that word always, intent. The monies are really intended to advance their cause. Usually it's killing people or, spreading propaganda. That may be used to support terrorist acts or organizations. Funds may stem from both legal and illicit sources. And money laundering is a joke compared to terrorist financing because all the research in the world may have some red flags, but it's even harder to detect. It's like saying this. Anyone here has watched wrestling? I mean, some people allege it's fake, right? But you plead the blood. Wrestling is not fake. But no, it ain't fake. But if you've ever watched wrestling, you know who I normally pull for? I pull for the bad guy. You know why? There's no rules for the bad guy. All my heroes were the bad guys. Darth Vader, love him to death. Because there's no rules. The good guys, they always apply by this little code. They have to be the good guy. The bad guys, they can do the good thing or the bad thing. Terrorists financing the same thing. Terrorists, they can play the good guy or the bad. There's no rules. I love that about them. Yeah? You remember when Star Wars, Luke, I'm your father? You remember? You don't watch that? Oh, no. Okay. So, you have to watch a movie. Yeah.
No, I guess trying to understand where Darth Vader came in, alright.
Well, he played by the rules, and he played not by the rules.
Okay.
With the terrorists, the same thing with their funding can come from legal as well as illicit means. And with the when wrestling, you also have this bad guy. When the referee's not looking, he poke your eye or pull the trunks or whatever. I always root for him because he does the good thing and he does the bad thing, and it's like there's no rules for him, or he breaks the rules. With terrorists, they break the rule. They're deceitful. They'll tell you, oh, we need money. We want help.
So in other words, you find a terrorist. If I just follow your logic, I'm trying to bring the whole.
Or you something else. I just like I don't know why. I don't know why. I know I wouldn't say that. I mean, like, I'm going to hell. But no, I would never say that I'm the father of the terrorist. But I just think that the more charismatic characters have always been the bad guys. I just love the bad guys. Yeah. Who don't like a good bad guy? I mean, if you didn't have a good bad guy, the movie would suck.
That's true.
Yeah. Because I mean, you won't want to see him get killed in the end, but I mean, you know, I sort of like him, you know.
So you're a fan of Thanos, half of the world should be going.
Oh hell yeah! Hey girl, what's up? Yeah, I'm a big fan of Thomas now. Don't get carried away. Now, I mean, if he was that good, I mean, they bringing him back for part 2 and possibly part 3. Hey, you know, who don't like you? Did you like Darth Vader? We were talking about Vader earlier.
I guess.
There you go.
She has no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, so I forget what I said. All right. So we see with the terrorists, they don't play by the rules. They can be deceitful. They can get monies by legal means or illegal means, and they're not ashamed. They will solicit. They will beg by way of charities, and sometimes these are front organizations. They're supposedly with good intent. Unless you name Salvation Army, Red Cross, don't tell me you name Save the Dogs of Bangladesh. I don't know you, never heard of you, but all of a sudden you just pop over overnight, and I'm going to give you money. So terrorists need to pay for their meals. They got to eat. If they're not working, gainfully employed, they'll be funded. Transportation, training, weapons, resources, they're going to get money. Or they need money and they will solicit, or you'll have some philanthropist or someone who is unwittingly or unknowingly patronizing or sponsoring some terrorist act. And it happens every single day. Yeah? Hawala. You probably wouldn't see this on your test, but it's just for you, more so for your FYI. It's really paperless banking. It's underground economy. It's more so in your Middle Eastern countries where you can do transactions where it's based on trust. There's a code amongst terrorists too now. It's based on trust where, hey, you need some money, I can give you the money. I can have an intermediary or go-between who can give you the money, but you got to pay me back later. It don't have to be direct cash. It could perhaps be by way of trade. You know, I could send you an invoice, or you could send me an invoice, or you could send me one computer, and you can inflate the price, and the difference, that would be me. Yeah? But it's really paperless. Hawala, which means transfer in Arabic, is an informal transaction based on larger mutual trust. I trust you. And of course, with these terrorists, you ain't gonna play around with their money. Let's be frank. If I'm a terrorist and you want money from me, or we both around, you ain't gonna me no money, right? You ain't gonna pay me back. But that plane that you're going on tomorrow, it's a good chance it may not reach. Yeah? They don't play around when they come down to their money. So they do have Hawala brokers. Let's say, for example, someone in New Providence and there's someone in Andres. You need to get some money to Andres. And there is a Hawala broker down there. I'll say, look here, I need to move $10,000 to my good friend Scott, who's down there. No problem. I'm going to give Scott the money. It's paperless. It's based on trust. When you see me again, you give me the money. You send the money with someone else, or if you're in business, you can perhaps send some invoice to me for some goods that we never negotiated, and you're getting payment for it. Yeah? Be good on that? So it's really paperless. It's no trail attached to it. It's based really on trust. And you see this more so with the Muslims. In the Middle East, Hawala is a system, again, or agency of transferring money traditionally used in the Muslim world, whereby the money is paid to an agent who instructs a remote associate to pay the final recipient. So I trust you, you trust me. It's a big network. And of course, it's based on trust. And if you cheat the other person, well, debt is involved in that too. That's not up there, but yeah. So you owe me and you don't pay me? Nope, not a problem. I know where you live. I know what job you go to. So you don't play them kind of games. Now, terrorist funds are usually moved in three ways: through the use of financial systems, your traditional banks, clearing banks, private offshore, cash couriers, persons who could actually deliver it, an international trade system. Remember I talked about those trades where you send the invoice, I get the invoice, we overinflate or underinflate, and you will get the difference. So that's just another means of moving the funds around. Terrorist financing is an offense. It's a criminal offense. Let's think about it for a second. If you blow up a plane with 100 people on it, that's criminal, that's obvious, right? You kill 100 and whatever amount of people, right? So that's a criminal offense. Any person who willfully provides or collects funds by any means, directly or indirectly, with the unlawful intention that it should be used to aid terrorism. You always have that word in the intent. Yeah? So, knowingly and intent. Those are the words you have to look for. In law, to prove any criminal offense, you need two things. One is called actus rea and mens rea. Yeah? One is the actual act, and the next one is the intent. So if you knowingly and intentionally tear my head off, that's a Bahamian jargon, just slap the hell out of me or whatever. So, like, you did the act, and you know your intent when you draw back like this. Hey, what's up? When you drew back like this and you're like, okay, I'm so tired of you, in an aggressive manner, so you know what you were doing. Yeah, and then you did the act. So that's what you do with two elements right there. So remember those words. If you knowingly, if someone comes to you and say, look, I need a deposit this $10,000. Okay, and he got on a t-shirt that says, I am the biggest supporter of ISIS. And he got a turban on. And then he said, look, I need to close all my other accounts, but I need to wire this out quick. And got on this t-shirt and the turban with a little star here and all that good stuff. Any red flags? I'm not saying I'm profiling, but he's saying, okay, you got this customer. He's saying, listen here, and I need to close all my accounts. I need to satisfy all my obligation to your financial institution within 48 hours. But I need this $10,000 to be wired to Pakistan.
That's the red flag.
Man, why don't you stop working with me?
Coat suit.
But
that is the red flag. Not with the other one. Because the biggest crooks is
Lord, give me some red. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. I do appreciate it. I ain't talking to you no more today.
Okay, quiet. That's unnecessary.
I finished with you now. So, based on those red flags, yeah, isn't that enough to satisfy your curiosity? To meet the requirement of knowing? There's so much stuff going on there, so now that would be willful blindness. If you decide that, hey, I ain't gonna report this ain't suspicious. Really? If Ray Charles, with the light off in the basement, could see that, you should have seen that. And they do employ what is called a reasonability poison test. If you're a banker and you've been in banking for, let's say, 30 years, you've seen it all, so they say. And then you take someone off the street, and he look at that case and he said, boy, I see all kind of red flags. That means you would have failed the reasonability test or the smell test. Yeah? Because he saw so much stuff with no experience. You with 30 years experience, I ain't really see it yet, It'll come to me in time, but I ain't see it yet, I praying for discernment. It ain't come yet, but yeah. I've actually seen it before. I've actually heard a staff member saying that I really didn't see what you're seeing, I know suspicions are transferable. But I say, you ain't see the red flag? I don't know, But maybe if I say, stop making excuses for this person, there's just too many red flags. I just don't see it. You really see it? I said, you going to jail, you ain't see all these things going on here, but I ain't see it. Don't go to jail, dear. All right. So countries should ensure that. Now this is because you're criminalizing terrorist financing. Last class we talked about with the FATF talking about each country should criminalize money laundering and terrorist financing. So terrorist financing is an offense, so we have to criminalize it. So countries should ensure that the intent and knowledge of terrorist financing be inferred from objective, factual circumstances. Hey, how you? So it should be inferred. Or you should see adequate red flags, pretty much, that suggest to you that there's reasonable cause to suspect that John Doe may be involved in possible And you notice we always use words like possible, on a ledge, until you criminalize. Yeah? Engagement in money laundering or terrorist financing. Yeah? That was the question?
No.
Oh, okay. And if you participate as an accomplice. So it ain't just you, it's the people you hang out with. That's why I stopped hanging out with certain people. There was a young fella that had he was a good friend of mine. I don't say he was a good friend of mine. You know when you wear some people loose? You know when you know some people, you don't know them? And I gave him a ride one time, you know, and I was like, and he was like, oh yeah, oh shoot, I dropped something. And I was like, drop what? And he said, that's my little bag. I said, what that is? You know when you know someone, but you only know them from the whole neighborhood, but you ain't really know them. So you gave him a ride, and you just talking joke, you know, you bump fists and all that good stuff, and you know, when he's going, he's like, oh shoot, drop my little bag. I said, your little bag, what's that? There's something you got? He said, oh no, it's just my little, my little herb. And I said, what? When you say herb, you mean like drugs in the car? They put me over, we could all get locked up there? He said, no, man, it's just herb. He said, just, to clear my thoughts. And I said, all right, not a problem. Next time I saw him, going down to Michael, hey, I said, hey, accelerate, no boy, never lock up pots, he said. You got hurt, you ain't got to tell me, I don't want to see, well, no, it's medicine, oh, okay. So, participate as accomplice. So you could be an unwitting accomplice. You could work at a financial institution. You got a friend who just, okay, let's pretend she ain't the room. You got a friend, right, who just recently, was converted to Islam. Radical Islam now. He used to be your neighbor and all that good stuff. He comes to your bank, your branch. I need to send some money off real quick. And you feel allegiance to him. Man, he's my boy. He cool. I don't think he can blow up nothing. So yeah, you facilitate the whatever. But you suspect something about him. You can actually become an accomplice. Yeah, you could be charged as an accomplice. Knowing. And with terrorism, it's a little different from money laundering because with money laundering, the bars a little higher, but with terrorist financing it's lower because you only gotta have like 5% suspicion about that. It's harder to detect. Money laundering is driven by profit. Terrorism, you're killing people. That's why the standard is different. So you only gotta have this much. Yeah, like that fella in the car with the herb, and he said, "Oh, I was just mad." I said, "What? I only had this much suspicion. He would never ride in my car again. Not this lifetime." And it could be raining too, but I don't care. So, the person who participates can also be an accomplice. Amen? And if the person is alleged to have committed the offense in the same country or different country. So, if that person in the Bahamas, he's water baptized, Holy Ghost filled, and we praise him to death. But he was carrying out a terrorist act in Trinidad or Turks and Caicos. The fact that he was doing it in another territory, not because he came here and wasn't charged, convicted here, that travels with him. You could still see that person as person who of interest for terrorist activity. You'll see him with that eye. Yeah? Double jeopardy. Yeah? So, even if he allegedly committed in another country, that's why we have these watch lists. They have a lot of terrorist watch lists and stuff, persons of interest in different territories. So when you get these names when you're doing your scrubs at your institution and you get a hit, and alleged or not, don't do business with. Yeah? Make sense? Because you could find yourself getting OFAC fine. We spoke about OFAC last class in English. Office of Foreign Asset Control, the U.S. Department of Treasury. Remember that? We spoke about them. We did. Anyone shaking their head? You all remember when we spoke about OFAC last time? Okay, y'all get me scared now. Y'all get me scared. Okay, maybe I did. Oh wait, no, we did touch on OFAC last time. And of course, OFAC have this listing. If at your financial institution you're scrubbing a name of let's say a recipient of some assets or funds, some wire, and you see the name pop up, bing, everything match for the person who your client is sending assets to or receiving monies from. What do? You're the compliance officer, mind your own business. There's as a compliance function, you want to vet some of these payments. Yeah? And the recipient of the funds is Alibaba. Arak Machine, Josaphat, whatever. Got a date of birth so-and-so, and he lives in this particular region, whatever. Everything matches up to when you did your scrub of your OFAC listing or terrorist watch list, bing, perfect match. What do you do? Do you complete the transaction, send the money, or receive the money? What do you do? You don't complete it. Oh, sorry, you darn right. You don't complete the transaction. You have to report it. Yeah? Because international standards say you have to report it. And local law say you have to report it. And then you have a personal liability. That person is sanctioned. Yeah? When you're on those international watch lists, you're not there for a reason. And I make a joke about one of our local persons in the Bahamas, Kevin Major. She came into one of our business units to open an account. I don't know why. I think I told you all this story before, but I mean, every now and then they'll try to see if they get it. So she came and opened an account, and then they called me, oh, a lady downstairs, she opened an account. I said, all right, why are you telling me? It's Kevin Major. I said, son, the name matches, and I said, you know me, everyone know me. I could be a little facetious at times. I said, okay, oh Lord, is she wearing all white? They say, yes. How you know? I said, that's just a trademark. She wear a lot of white. She wear white, pure like cocaine. So she's wearing a lot of white. She was in the branch. Yeah. So they asked me. I told them, say the name did match up with the person. Sorry.
I said I stopped. No,
What? Okay. So the thing is this: she is on our internal caution list. We do maintain a listing at the institution for persons we're not interested in doing business with. So I asked the staff, the name match up? Yeah. I said, well, you know why she's on the list? Hold on, let me check the list. Okay. What do I have in the notation? She was arrested and charged, indicted before a grand jury for cocaine importation, exportation. And she was deemed by the U.S. government as a drug kingpin. In layman's term, you have to sell at least a ton of dope to get a title like that. Yeah? So when you see something like that, what are you calling me for? She is sanctioned.
She see it in the notes though, this person who came to you?
Yeah, but then sometimes some frontline staff don't like to act. You have to hold their hand sometimes. Like, what do I do? Or what do I tell her? I tell her, no! Go away. You're a cancer. We don't want to deal with you. But they're like, is there a script to say? Like, what?
There's a what?
A script. What do I tell her?
What you mean by that?
Yeah, I worked at an institution where they had a script if you want
Yeah,
guidelines.
it's the script.
as to
Because
what
they
to
don't know
say.
how to tell the customer
Yeah.
no.
So you didn't have to worry about.
I got you. Offending them.
You shouldn't.
You gotta be
Not
careful.
offending.
These are talking points.
Not saying too much, but with her, she know it. Like, come on, everyone know you. You ride in the DU bus. Come on, everyone know you. But of course, they need to give them a little script what to say and what's not. Every now and then she'll pop in to try to open the account. But we say, nah, okay, have a nice try. We know that exactly 9 months from now you're coming back. So, and what she does, she goes from one branch to the next. Be one institution. So if you go to the Shirley Street branch or you go to the mall, be one branch. So once they put your name in, everything go beep beep. Care about who? That's what the computer can say. So you can't get away. It's one bank. You can't get around that. So we do this. While we may say like
At your institution, do you have a period of which a person can say, okay, if they've been 5, 7, 8 years, no offenses, will you open up a high risk account for them? Because you can kill somebody for the same thing forever.
You're not going to do that, but it's a case by case. But in the case of a sanction, if they're still on that list, they haven't been removed
No,
or
I
not
clear
that.
if it's a
But for
sanction.
our caution, you are placed on that list and we don't never take you off.
take the
You will
person
never
off.
come off. The only person who can actually take you off is the CCO, the Chief Compliance Officer. And the thing about it is this: we also keep other persons such as, and I could talk because his family in here. I can hear it again. Some staff members who no longer with us, who might have been fired for misappropriation, whatever. They will never come back.
They keep, yeah.
They're like roaches because once you let them in, they keep coming back, right? And all the big on in the world, but we keep a listing. They on our list. We keep all of the PEPs, and it's not just locally. Every PEP we can identify is on that list. It's so much. You got must be like 1 million names on there, and we got all kind of other information on them, like why they there, date of birth, if not date of birth, social security number, and national. So we got so much information. So if you walk in there and you think 5 years later, we may decide to open the account.
Case by case.
It's a case by case. You may decide because you're gonna be saying, you know what, Kevin. I mean, not Kevin, but so much Dwight. You remember Dwight? He was like, he went and he did his time. He said, and then he said he's wearing a collar now. He's like a deacon or something. Yeah, he came back and he said
he just
was
get
safe.
locked up again,
And then
right?
he got locked up right after that. So he said, man, you ain't stopped, man. You just trying to see if he can work with you, and then they find you 3 o'clock in the morning, all that herb and all that money they got. So reputational risk. And think about it. If you take that person on, the community of criminal behavior, they talk. If I know your institution is slack and your controls are slack, they spread that. Look here, you trying to get in the bank? Go down to the bank of arms, but they don't have to nothing. Just go in there and they'll open an account. They let you in. 5 years later, they let you in. They talk. I hope that I'm picking on the one from Bank of Arms. I'm just, using the money. Hey, how you? But it's using as an illustration. But for us, typically, you don't come off that list, and it's a case by case. But if you're international,
No, international is fine. It's just meant for local.
oh, locally, case by case. Yeah. Even if, for example, if you're a PEP and you demitted office, you'll still be on the list, but it'll just be more so as a indicator.
Yeah.
You still need, even though you demit office and you come to open an account after the fact, say you're no longer a card carrying member of a party, you would have lost your seat or whatever, moved on, it will still indicate. But we could override that and say, hey, we know this person, but for all intent purposes, just to identify that person.
Every politician is a bit.
If everyone who has what we call a prominent public function, whether you're elected or appointed, you're PEP.
So that means y'all will just watch them. Y'all will still do business, but y'all
No,
just.
it's because you're susceptible to corruption. If you control the public treasury and you have all this power, everyone gravitates. Well, some people will gravitate to you because you have a means and influence to get favors, perhaps. And I'll give you some kickbacks. Case in point, and I think I told you about this, and you all laughed at me the last time. We had a scenario where for a politician, I saw a transaction coming in, $100,000. I can talk about it because y'all don't know who it is.
Yeah, we know.
You think you know, but
I say Ryan last week, but that
but
was
I ain't
wrong.
getting into your business, man. So 100 grand came into the person's account. Campaign, they call it the constituency account. 100 grand came in. And we were like, okay, 100 grand came in, what does this represent? And the narrative was campaign contribution. And I was like, okay, so it is an election year, campaign contribution. Much red flags, right? You don't see no red flags. He is a politician, right? Serving minister, even though House is soon to be dissolved and all that. The red flag for me was who it was coming from, for one. It was coming from a particular segment that was recently given legality. I ain't calling no name. I see you laughing. So
The gaming house.
I don't know why you don't get out of this class. and the second point, that particular politician wasn't even running. I thought that was 2 red flags. You ain't running, but someone want to give you 100 grand to your campaign. Any red flags there? And on top of that, he had instructions to move the monies to his personal account from the constituency. So I had 3 red flags going on one day.
Crazy, man.
Any red? Do you think that's something perhaps you want to report to the FIU? I think so. Just saying, And because these persons hold this power and influence, you have to put them under a microscope, and they're risk rated higher. Yeah? Anyone who could affect change.
Sorry, we have local laws. For political financing.
No, but
So-
Campaign reform.
But I'm glad you went there.
Because,
The United States is putting pressure on us right now.
right, I know that, but I'm trying to say you report them to the FIUs because it's suspicious, which I can appreciate, but legally, we don't have any laws to
No.
prosecute him
No,
to
we don't
say-
have campaign
Yeah, we
reformers
don't have
yet.
any
No.
campaign, so
No.
technically.
So they ain't getting to jail, no.
No,
No,
you can't
ain't
go
no way,
jail,
no,
you
you
have-
gotta
you have
jail.
no offense to charge you.
It's good intelligence to have now.
Yes, I agree with you.
Very good intelligence,
Information.
yeah. Because,
Whatever.
but no, we don't have campaign reform, but I can tell you this before, I don't put my head in the chopping block, but because the United States has recommended it strongly in this year's report, before the next election, how much you want to bet?
I think it'll be fun after election. I think it'll be a next.
After they get theirs, Okay. But you know it coming.
They come in.
Oh, it coming. But do you really want to put a ceiling on how much money you could get in contributions for your campaign?
You don't have to put a ceiling on how much you get. You can put a ceiling on how much an institution or a person can,
Well, you ain't no one feeling that, because I mean, I'll be honest with you. Some of the transactions I've seen with my monitoring tool, I would suggest that that's a good way to steal or to move monies easily. Yeah. But if you put a cap on it, I've seen when they had the, not the election, was just recently gone, the one before that, where some monies were coming in and they were like, oh, the front lines, oh, that's campaign contribution. People, everyone's coming in, oh, the campaign contribution is going to certain people's account. I have a certain MP right now, and I ain't called the name, please don't ask me, where on the constituency account, he only want 2 signatories on the account, him and his wife.
What? The constituency? The constituency?
Yes. He wants him and his wife to be
but
the...
again, we have no laws to dictate who
No.
has to manage it. So
No.
we don't like it.
It's
but
morally wrong, but it's
yeah,
not criminally.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not,
And I was like, well, okay, because you know,
It's
constituency...
not a branch field. That's the branch of a chairman. The branch
Fall in line.
as
Fall
a
in
treasurer.
Fall in line. When you
The
get when they
secretary.
get your letter of appointment as a member of parliament, you get this notice telling you that every year your constituency will get 100 grand.
Yeah.
It goes and they break that up into 12 months. So when they
Uh-huh.
go there, he's supposed to supposedly account for it, and then no one really account for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I seen stuff where the so-called constituency account, and I see monies move from there, and they say travel for research or whatever. They're doing a lot of research. But then, you know, going to Florida, or they may perhaps move from their account to a personal account, or they give it giving monies to persons in the constituency and whatever. And
Yeah.
I could be in Fox Hill, and you know, let me give you another 10. And you don't know what he actually did, but they say to help this one or that one or whatever. And that's why you hear a lot of row in House Assembly where they talk about your accountability for those funds and whatever. But do you actually see these constituency centers open year round? Some of them, when the election is called and finished, them doors locked. Do you actually see people sitting in there behind a desk working? When they come to their office at least once a week and meet with the constituents? Some.
Very few.
Few. Very, 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 very few. How do you actually count for that 100 grand a year? I can tell you one thing. I've seen some stuff too, and I laugh because when I looked at some trail on something, we had a little joke in the compliance where it's alleged that certain person was a sweetheart of an MP. And then when you watch the movement of the funds, and I said, look at this foolishness. Eh? Because the automated tool, you could
What?
do link analysis, and I said, look at this foolishness, eh? Without fail, yeah.
Stupid boy.
But then when you hear little rumors, oh, this one got a child for this one, and you see the money's move from the constituency account to the MP's account, and then goes to the account of that person, I said, look at the foolishness, eh? It happens, believe me, folks, it happens. I know you all think this is made up, but sometimes you do have 1 or 2 MPs, or you do have extra kids outside. I know it's a revelation, but yes. I mean, not all. You got 1 or 2 good ones, only 2. But you know, how you all get me off track again now? So anyhow, so terrorist financing is a criminal offense. Do you know that? Yeah. If you're blowing up anybody and you're trying to raise money to assist someone or yourself with carrying out a terrorist act or threats, it's a criminal offense. The cost of terrorist acts. I think I would have showed you this before. Yeah, it costs money. It's not cheap to carry the terrorist act. In many instances, of course, you could carry a simple terrorist act like going to Shell, any Shell, and getting like $100 worth of gasoline or something like that, put in some drums, whatever, and drive into government house. You know what you're doing, changing the guard, and scream with some click, boom, blow up half of the police band and a couple of Marines and lady, depending if she's out there. That's a terrorist act. That don't call for a lot of money, right? Yeah, but you still needed some monies to source it. I'm just talking about in this simplistic form, that is. Some examples again: the London transport system attack. This was the tubes in London. You remember the tunnels down there? You all remember that? No? No one has watched BBC in here? You all only watched CNN? No? Okay. Well, anyhow, so this was 2005, and the cost to carry the act was like 8,000. That would be in pounds. So I guess that's more than dollars. The Madrid train bombing, 10,000. Istanbul truck attack, 40,000 US. The Jakarta Marriott Hotel bombing, 30 grand in US. Hey, how you? There you go. Then there was the Bali bombing for 50 grand. And remember the Cole, the US destroyer, when the guys in the Go Fast boat, they pulled up alongside and they waved, hey, how you all doing? And the soldiers waved back, and then they click, they blew up themselves, and they had that 30-foot hole inside the US destroyer. You all remember that? No?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that was just in 2000. 19 years ago. You all remember that?
Yeah, you killed Brian there.
Well, okay. Sorry, someone say what? You didn't remember that?
She wasn't here 19.
You're not on island?
Ain't nobody say that.
Oh. Boy, anyhow, so
It's in high school.
Say all us here 50, so 19 years ago.
It's in high school.
Yeah.
anyhow, so having said that, so these are just some examples of the terrorist acts and the estimated costs they carried out, whether it was either to rent a boat, buy a boat, purchase explosives, weaponry, pay for the meals of these persons, because there's actually a lot of planning that goes into this. It ain't like they just wake up one night. So one day you may get a directive from a hierarchy in the terrorist organization. Listen, Yatira, I need you to go blow up government house. Yeah? And you say, not a problem. And you know, in their religion, it's like how all of us, most of us, scared to die. That's a blessing to die for their religion. Yeah, that's an honor to die for their religion. And some of those extremists. So when you hear, oh, I get to blow up, yeah. So you got 2 weeks from today, you get to blow up yourself. Need you to go to the government house, don't worry. I can provide you with funding and all the supplies and resources you need. Just go and just blow yourself up. You know? In the Muslim extremist faith, and this is coming from the FIU too. I remember when we were there in this typology. Typically what they do, they like to pay off all their debt. They will prepare their will. Remember I gave that scenario where they would go to the bank and this fellow is just paying off all his debt and credit. The rationale is that before they go into the afterlife, they don't want to owe anyone in this life. Mm-hmm. So if you see this person come here and I need to pay this off quick. Dude, you just get this loan last year. Don't worry about that. I ain't in a rush. Where you going? You're going to see Allah. So I need to pay off this loan, prepare my will, and the fella in a rush. Where you going though? That's a red flag. Sorry? Sorry, that what?
No, joke. Insensitive joke. I say clearly that's not why many black people do it, because
no, we ain't gonna do that because we like, well, we can't blow up. We gonna tell you right up front, I ain't gonna blow you that thing up in the next 5 years, but you can't be. Black people, we just ain't on that run. And if 9/11, truth be told, you know that couldn't happen on Bahamas there, right? You come out, you think you hold a whole plane hostage at Bahamas here with a box cutter?
Something like that.
And I just being over there and buying all them stuff and all that box and stuff that you bringing back. You come around me with a box cutter and 200 behemoth on the plane and we look at you like, what's that on you? You got to be joking, boy. Grocery I got down and I call, who behemoth you can put a knife on? We laugh at you, boy. What's that on, boy? What? You serious? You going to Nassau? You might cut one or two of us, but all my grocery in there. And guess what? Guess when it's happening? Around back to school time though? Yeah. You got to be kidding me. All my children's school uniform in there, you can pull out a little knife on me. You better stop me at least 1,000 times, because boy, look here. Not no behemoth. Al-Qaeda spent roughly $500,000 to destroy the World Trade Center, which wasn't a lot, I guess, but and these guys, they were training for, I think it was 4.5 years, so they got time. They could relax, go learn how to fly a plane, go to do the simulation classes. They were staying in apartments, they were getting groceries, they did everything like normal people, because the monies were being wired in. But remember, the world has never seen something like that before. So no one knows how to prepare for something like that, because no one had ever thought about flying a plane into nothing like that. That's a new phenomenon. And it took $500,000 coming from the Bin Laden family. What has been the cost to the United States? $3.3 trillion. That's the United States after 9/11. That's not a true dollar value. You know why? Because the whole world changed. At Linden Pinden International Airport, we were not in line with international standards. You need to have all kind of new equipment. If you've ever traveled to Florida, and they got to go through this wind tunnel, and they got all them different stuff, that's international standard. They need to go through all the WAN, they need more resourcing. So I want to talk about AML. KYC, man for pizza, EDD, you have to monitor all those international clients. Yeah? Especially from high-risk jurisdictions. So it's never woulda, coulda, shoulda. They changed laws. You remember last week we spoke about the Patriot Act? You remember that? And that's far-reaching worldwide. So anything we're going to touch the U.S. economy, they could carry out or engage and flex their muscles, their legal muscles for that. Yeah? And of course, we know terrorist funding comes from any illicit activity or legitimate activity. So we ain't got to beat that dead horse. We know it's drugs, fraud, corruption. On the flip side, it could be from legitimate means, whether it's from charities, donations, whatever. We got that. And pretty much money laundering with terrorist financing. A quick overview. Funding for money laundering comes from criminal behavior. We know that. It's profit driven. Money, terrorist financing does not require a substantial amount. You could have a small amount or a big amount. We got that. Anyone not comfortable with that, by the way, knowing the difference between the two. Terrorist financing can come from legit or illegitimate. Sorry?
I said the question was on the tip.
You missed that question.
I wish that question was on
Oh!
the tip.
Yeah, nice try though. No, it ain't gonna be that simple at least. You may have to give examples or something like that. No, it won't be that easy. Nice try though. International strategy on terrorist financing. We spoke briefly about this last, at length. So this will just be a recap. Remember the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, the G20 countries. They are the international standard bearer as it relates to money laundering, but also terrorist financing. They set the standard for the world on how we should engage, act, and deal with terrorism. Yeah? You remember from last week, yeah? So, in their recommendation number 5 indicates that countries should criminalize terrorist financing. And actually, what should be in there should be all countries. Yeah? So it's not, okay, just some countries. The international standard, all countries should criminalize terrorist financing. Yeah? So when we didn't have that in our law, you could get blacklisted. Because, okay, you ain't playing by international rules. You got your own thing going on over here. But if you want to play with all of us, you need to put in your law that terrorism is a criminal offense. Remember we spoke about terrorism earlier? And we didn't have an anti-terrorism law. Boy, but after we get blacklisted, we find one quick, right? How do you say? You catch sense? So if you want to play, you got to enact. So we do have terrorism laws. And as a matter of fact, it was amended just last year. We now have an amended Anti-Terrorism Act. The U.S. Patriot Act. Again, a powerful reaction to September 11. And that was one of the fastest legislation passed. I think before the end of September that was passed. They wasn't even playing. They just threw everything in the book. They had all kind of laws inside that one piece of... all that noise and even ain't making no speed.
That's why all the noise.
Huh? Ain't even able. Cheers. So the U.S. Patriot Act is far-reaching, and it's once you touch the U.S. economy, the U.S. interests, and how they have it worded in their legislation, U.S. interests, U.S. economy, that's worldwide. What is the number one trade medium in the world right now? The U.S. dollar.
Oh.
Everyone need that U.S. dollar. I mean, if we don't need it, I mean, we don't have to, abide by none of their laws. We're like, fat girl, ain't checking for that. All these other laws that they come up with, but you want to trade in U.S. dollars, right? In currency, right? So you have to abide by their law, or they would sanction you. Can we afford that? I was listening to an interesting comment the other night from Mr. Diagla. They were talking about the advisory. It's okay, we got a Bahamian got starved now. The United States, they got someone who got a beer bottle get hit in the head and a fish fry. Oh, the Bahamians like crazy. You got a Bahamian who got stabbed in the face. So the reporter asked Mr. Diagla, they said, okay, so one of us was stabbed now, and what do we do now? do we put an advisory in the United States? He said, think about this for a second. 75% of our tourists come from North America. You think that's wise? Who needs who more?
He said that in the interview.
Yes.
He should have wiggled way around that.
No.
He should have wiggled.
I mean, she's
Should've
being
wiggled
so
it.
rudely. I mean,
He could have wiggled his
really,
way
we
to
just like a
answer
little dot
answer
in the Caribbean.
different-
I mean,
Why we agree, but I mean, come on, he could have.
every country have the right to say, hey, we got to protect our citizens, you know. And then Darren Hanfield, he was saying, everyone should have their wits about it. He was more diplomatic. He said, well,
That's what
any
I'm saying,
country you go to, you need to have your wits about you. You can't be no fool. That's your bread and butter. If
just
you
diplomatic
ever heard the
answer.
saying, whoever feeds you controls you? So if this guy giving you 75% of your income, you really want to take him off? So what if he say, okay, I'll put an advisory. Ain't nothing worse than reputational risk when it comes down to financial services. Because you know how hard it is to get your name back. Case in point, Aruba, Natalie Holloway. One American, not a group, not many. One American woman was killed. And they say there's an advisory, and they didn't catch themselves for about 10 years after. The woman's still dead. I mean, and it was like the whole country, the economy was like, gone south. One American. So you really want to take them off? Especially if they depended so heavily on tourism. If you know Aruba, they depend heavily on tourism. So if our tourism market is cut like 75% in one night, what'll happen? You don't need that many people in the hotels, right? You think all them going to rush to financial services? Where they going to take me and your job? And I too old as hell being it. So what must happen now? I'm just saying. So we have to be careful with that. Sanctioning is a serious business. And that's the kiss of death. Sanctioning can include blacklisting. Blacklisting is just saying, hey, don't do business with him. Because he ain't playing by international standards. He allowing any foolishness to happen in his house. Yeah? You ever hear what kind of word go? As for me in my house? Well, if all of us in here say, all of us got to be on one accord, right? But you over there want to wait for the devil. You letting anything happen in your house. Well, we don't operate like that, so we need to deflock you until you get your act together. Yeah? So you could confidently say, as for me in my house.
You mean what they did with Christian Master?
Man, where you going again? The next slide. Where is again now? Where we is now? We have, okay, so international, you make me forget what I was saying. International strategy on terrorism financing. You got to say alleged too, by the way. It's alleged.
I ain't say what they do to Christian Master, that's all.
Yeah, I know, but you
I
also got to
remember
say
the rape
alleged.
charges.
I know, you
I'm
got
talking
to.
about how he passed out, put them to the side.
But it happens. And that's protocol.
Who asked about it, you know?
Yeah, a letter was circulating.
Yeah, I mean, that's normal protocol. Until you get your act together. I've seen it in my church happen there.
You go to church? All the marijuana talks. All the marijuana talks.
Don't mind me, I got plenty of sense. I can tell you why, you know why I was going to church. You know the marijuana talk? I ain't there in the Foxhill. I can't be no one boyfriend. So international strategy on terrorist financing. Yeah? So,
Not that that's not illegal. You don't get nobody boyfriend.
not Patsy, sir. 8 o'clock.
But you want your soul right. You don't get nobody
But
boyfriend.
no, them sold. Yeah, that's important too, but kissing a dude? I mean, come on now. So,
Like you said, that's a little deep now.
yeah, well, if you see boyfriend, I mean, what's the next step? Come on. So, international strategy on
Kissing in prison.
terror. What would you think is happening at 8 o'clock every night the light get turned off? I used to watch
8 o'clock every
8
night.
o'clock every night.
Kissing.
And then the whole, listen, the whole place of darkness.
8 o'clock, their food, you know, there's a bus called the Free Ride at 5. They got to be fed for. No, I'm just getting you information if you didn't know. You see the bus going through the street, they have to be in a certain time so they can get fed. That's why they got to get them in there. 6 o'clock they get fed and whatever, they do their bed search and whatever, all that good stuff. They got to be locked down for 8 o'clock. I used to be in them late at night, you know what?
So you gotta go sleep.
Unless you want to talk to yourself, mate, so all night if you want. I mean, you ain't gotta go sleep, but them lights go off at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Then you get kiss up and feel up it.
Next slide, so international, you all need to go in another
That's
class.
why we ain't sitting together now.
I'm serious, man. So international strategy on terrorist financing, we continue in the EU. European Union, they have a strategy, and which includes a terrorist list. You can actually go online and see the EU list. You can go to their site, the EU terrorist list. You can just Google it, and there's a listing. The list changes every other day because they're always adding names to them. Just like with OFAC, they're always populating that list. You got the UN list, EU list. They got so many different watch lists. One of the things we typically do with my compliance team, we try to open as many lists as possible. So when we get these requests from the business unit, we can search the names again. So sometimes Theory, you will say, well, why are you taking so long? Well, we're trying to protect you because we're trying to compare the names against the other lists, our internal lists, and then whatever open source we can find. And some people will call sometimes, I sent it to you 5 minutes ago. Why are you taking so long? I like, you won't come do what I'm doing? No? You only want my signature, right? To say approve and carry out the transaction, right? So what if I get it wrong? And I didn't do what I'm supposed to do? And not just tick the box, but I'm doing some additional research. Then what?
You get sent home.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Hey, send me home? I ain't got no home after that. You keep telling me to go home, ain't no more home. I just driving after that. You know? You know I like to go by Arawaki and sit down there? Y'all can find me there every year after that. Because I ain't got no more home.
Must see that.
So the EU terrorist list, the cash control regulation requires a disclosure of a cash equivalent of anything in excess of 10,000 EU when entering or leaving the EU. So that's a requirement.
Something like what we pick up, why we can't leave the 10,000, we have to declare it.
Well, that's the protocol they have in EU. For right now, the cash exchange, the cash movement. Right now, we're doing the disclosure of 10,000 when we leave. They haven't really enacted it yet, but it's going to be leaving or coming in. You'll have to declare. Yeah, but the EU, that's been done for a while now. And that's part of their terrorist protocol. Whether you leave in any EU countries, leaving or coming in, you have to declare. You got to fill a little form. It's required. The Commission promotes cooperation between FRUs. You'll be the expert on that. If you're FRU, they ask for sharing information for possible terrorist engagement or places of interest. They would share information. Provide guidelines for non-profit sector with a view to reducing their potential abuse for terrorist financing. So they do provide education and guidance. Yeah. So that's a part of their strategy as it relates to the EU. And then we come now to sanctions. I've been talking about sanctions over and over. Sanctions in one word is penalty. I'm going to penalize you. Yeah? Sanctions and embargoes basically are tools mainly put in place by the United Nations originally. Because all sanctions don't come from the United Nations. But this is where it started. So sanctions and embargoes are tools mainly, not only. Because you could have a United States sanction. You could have an EU sanction. But it originally started with the United Nations, and typically they put in place these sanctions. Regional bodies such as the EU or by individual countries, for example the US, against a country, jurisdiction, or an individual. Yeah? You, at your institution, you complete an annual attestation to Securities Commission saying that we don't have any terrorist funds or related, yeah. I know, because I have to do it for 17 territories for my institution. I gotta be able to say, for all of these different countries, there are no known terrorist related. So don't say 100%. Don't never go and say that. Please don't say that. You know, don't ever say in a letter to the regulator, I have thoroughly searched my database, and I can put my head on the chopping block to say that no terrorist related assets or funds, directly or indirectly, pass through. If you do that and they find something, but we know you get fired. We even need your idea, but you could be fined. So you always say something known or based on research. You know, use little protective words. So don't never say 100%. Yeah, because you cannot swear for anybody. You cannot swear for your system. Sometimes systems are corrupted. Yeah, and if you think your system is foolproof, boy, you could be telling some lies. You know, you got to be careful with that. Sanctions and embargoes are normally used by the international community for one or more of the following reasons. Suppression of terrorist acts, you know? Because if my country, I have a lot of terrorists in my countries, you know I want to engage in world trade. So out of the big boys say, listen here, you need to get your people get a handle on that terrorist situation. So what we can do, we ain't gonna let you be a part of the WTO, the World Trade Organization. I mean, we ain't really interested in trading with you, because we ain't really got much to trade other than services. We don't make nothing. Yeah? So they say, we ain't really on your run right now, so we can sanction you. We are more dependent for trade purposes on import, because we don't generate nothing other than we provide services. Yeah? And we do sell some pineapple and sell some crawfish, but we ain't really nothing substantial. Yeah? Application of pressure to comply with the objectives. So basically it's by sanctioning you, saying, okay, do X, Y, and Z, we'll come back and evaluate you to see how far you are, and then we'll consider lifting the ban on you. Yeah? Case in point, Cuba. They had an economic embargo in place on them from like 60 years now, something like that. From way back then. I mean, like, you know you hate someone when you go to Congress and you pass a law to say you hate that person. You know you really hate that person, right? You know, if the House Assembly meeting, they say, okay, we can pass a law. Don't do business with Haiti law. You know you really gotta hate someone, right? That's deep. Interesting thing was that President Obama said that with Cuba, he went there before he left office. He made it a point in his last year to go visit Cuba, and he said, you know what? Before I leave office, opening the borders to the Cubans. You know, it'll be in our best interest. You know, we got so many people from Cuban descent who live in Florida, and they've helped develop the country. We're gonna open the borders. Good trade. He left. The next guy came in and said, I'm gonna build the tallest walls I could find. I'm gonna put it all around, and ain't no one getting in. So whose report do you believe? The last man in the chair, because he's the one who calling the shots. So that Cuba deal, and you know how you feel about anything Obama did, right? Every chance he get, he says, Obamacare was this, Obama didn't do that. So he just, like, everything that Obama's trying to do, like opening the borders for Cuba and repeal that piece of legislation on that embargo, cancel that out, he say, ain't gonna happen, no time soon. So it is what it is. An enforcement tool. Sometimes diplomatic efforts fail. Yeah? Have you ever had a neighbor, you say, you go to him, neighbor, your dog keep knocking over my tin, and I gotta, every morning I gotta pick up the trash, you know? He said, yeah, I can deal with that, okay, no problem. That's a Monday. Wednesday, neighbor, your dog again, he knock over my bin and he got the trash all over the lawn and everything, right? That's 2 times. Let's just say that happened over a 2-week period. You're being very diplomatic. Yeah? So week 4.
Poison.
You make I ain't saying what you're gonna do, but when diplomacy fails,
Talking from the first
Right.
week.
exactly. So when diplomacy fails, then you need to use strong tactics. That's when there's a section in the United Nations called the Security Council. That's your military. Yeah. So in Bahamian time, that's when you get your cutlass. So when the dog come again, and you have to use military means, because obviously telling your neighbor, hey neighbor, that ain't working. So you have to deal with that issue. Extreme situations call for extreme measures. Now I ain't saying you go chop no one dog up, but I'm just saying,
You see how they're trying to charge them, get the police charged for killing them dogs?
Yeah.
Well, that's a drug dealer dog. They go on the yard and kill the dog.
I'm just saying, based on
Well, yeah.
our last
Yeah.
conversation in last third of class.
Well, I can tell you a lie, but back in the day, we killed some dogs. Now, I ain't gonna lie. We going some lie. We killed some dogs, boy. We like.
That's not bad precedence.
Well, yeah, because typically drug dealers, if you got a pit bull, Rockwilder back in the day in your yard, ain't no one come in your yard, and they're good alarms too, by the way. Ain't no one come in your yard for one. Number 2, they make a lot of noise. So the first thing you need to take out is the dog, and you just hey, pop, and that's it.
Yeah, but they trying to 55 years that.
And this between, I should be being recorded. What they used to allegedly do back in the day, right? Is to get like the empty water jug, the little hand, that's what, the gallon jug. You put your firearm in the muzzle, and then you just call the dog over to the fence. You give him a little treat, whatever you want to give him, and that muffle the sound, and pop. And it really ain't that hard, and then that's what I heard. And that is to be your threat is neutralized, and then that means that's in the movies. That's what they do. So, so what are we talking about again now?
Sanctions.
Okay, sanctions. So to encourage a change in behavior. So that's what sanctions is, to encourage a change in behavior. Like they will tell us, you're not doing enough to fight tax evasion. So to encourage us, we were blacklisted. And how soon will we behave?
Within a year.
No, in a year. We was on the list just this year.
Couple weeks,
We just went
right.
on the list and we got off the list how fast. Because you can't jeopardize financial services.
So just give them what they want.
You give them what they want, but of course they'll be back in December. Again, to test us again, to see if they would need to come back in 2020. So this is encourage good behavior. Yeah? Basically that's what sanction is, as a penalty. Several sanctioned countries include, of course I got Cuba up there, because there's an economic embargo by the United States. In particular, North Korea. We know what happened with them. They want to be the next superpower. So I mean, think about it. These guys want to develop missiles that can reach the United States. And they ain't ashamed about it. I mean, like,
There's a lot of African countries.
yes, you do have a lot. Libya, you know, with Muammar Gaddafi, them crew. You know, he was famous for blowing up that passenger plane, alleged, several years ago. 100 plus people. Sudan, warlords. Sorry?
What about Venezuela?
Venezuela,
State
there
now,
are
Where they is?
restrictions for
They there?
Venezuela
They
before
there?
corruption.
Venezuela, they're there?
No, you don't have them there. They are there for high risk for corruption. We have Venezuela, Panama, Argentina.
Panama?
They're yeah.
Bahamas?
No. I said Panama, Venezuela, and Argentina.
I mean, us.
Corruption.
Us doing business with them. That's
We
what-
could do business with them, but their risk rated as high risk. For they're known for corruption. They've
Okay.
had issues with their presidents, senior officials being corrupted, their PEPs, and that's a big issue. So at my institute, before we could even engage on onboarding, you have to get compliance sign off for anyone who emanating from those type of countries.
So question, what if I own a retail store and I want to go to Panama to business, pick up supplies or whatever?
No.
So ain't nothing wrong with going back and forth Panama, I mean wire transfers.
No, I mean, once it's touching Panama, once we have clarity as to what it represents, and if it's something like that. But if you're doing a transaction one-on-one with an official in Panama,
Okay.
and this person may be
Okay.
on a list or known to be involved or is known in the press for some negative activity, then that's a different.
Okay.
We could do business. They're just restricted, not totally sanctioned. Yeah?
So how about these girls who send the money back to why you looking?
The girls who send the money back? Well,
Venezuela girls, they don't use Shell Bank?
it's a case by case. Not my bank, but some other bank. Yes, but there's a case by case, and of course, you can do some activity, provided that we do scrutiny of the transaction. You get compliance sign off, and it falls within what we call our risk appetite. Yeah, but if it's outside and it's going to hurt us more, we would just sanction and shut it down. So no, we're not interested. Remember, you reserve the right to say no to any transaction. You don't just have to do it.
Have you been saying no to those transactions?
We've seen some transactions where we just said no because of some information that we may have been privy to, or it's in the press, some negative
I
news.
talking about the girls. The girls.
You can talk to these girls. I don't know. Ain't no girls coming to us. I mean, I don't know none of these girls.
Oh my.
Whatever these girls are, allegedly. I don't know what it's- There they go to
Money grab and stuff.
yeah,
like
they
that.
go to money ground.
Yeah, I know they go there. I just don't know if they just go there.
No,
No, they don't follow that.
not us. We a safe bank, man. So, sanctions again. The sanctions, there are two broad categories we are concerned with as it comes to sanctions. Trade, economic, and arms sanctions. That's where they would block certain monetary or trade dealings with countries or regions. Deter humanity abuses, deter the continuation of corrupt regimes, example. Then you have the specially designed nationals, and you see that more with the OFAC, Office of Foreign Asset Control. And then you have the denied poisons list, because you can have poisons on that who on these watch lists that, hey, this poison is a poison of interest, he's known for criminal behavior and or terrorist activity. So that's where you have this denied poison list. You notice in recent times, the legislation was passed for poisons. We have to have a manifest for who's coming in on flights ahead of time. We have to. And the recipient country, they have to have that too. You can actually deny poisons in because this poison is showing up on a list. The information lines up with someone who's on this watch list. Why would you want a known terrorist to fly into the Bahamas?
So that's what when they say they're waiting on the paperwork.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
the manifest. We need to know who's coming in.
I
So
think
you just have to send a manifest to London or something.
Wherever you're going, that's the
Centralized.
what centralized what? It's international best practice. It's a rule now. That's why they get that manifest. That's saying ahead of time. You don't just. They have to communicate that ahead. These are the poisons, and it's actually scrubbed.
That's very business. Like she said, manifest then in London, like five and
They know who coming. So when you come and when you touch down, and you walking through, they like. You remember my scenario when I came from Colombia and I was there? I think I told you about it last time. And I walked in there and minding my own business. They say, Randy Taylor? I say, yes, I am. They thought I was important. You know, like, yes, I am. That would be me. And they said, okay, come over in the other room. And I said, but they get you out of me, boy. What happened? And they're like, I thought I was special, you know?
You were special.
Not in that kind of way, though. I don't want to be not like Randy Taylor. And I just thought, because sometimes you see people with little signs say Randy Taylor, or you might have been the lottery or something. You're Randy Taylor, right? But I said, hold on now, these fellas, the customs. I was like, yes, that would be me. Come in this little room. I said, what the heck? You're being randomly chosen. I said, yeah. You being in Colombia, what you being over there? I being learning about money laundering. Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know who on this list. Immigration?
I am not certain. I think it would be for us. But like the United States, it would be border control because it was combined. Customs and immigration for them is border control. Yeah, but for us, I think it would probably be immigration. Yeah. Again, we spoke about this last time, the OFAC, Office of Foreign Asset Control. It's a part of the United States Department of Treasury. They deal with poisons who they would sanction. Poisons who I guess would go against the United States foreign policy on poisons of interest. They would populate these names on the list. Poisons who are engaging in narcotics, terrorist financing, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. You're seeing when we had our anti-terrorism law last year, we had to include that in the law. Proliferation of nuclear weapons, that had to be added. That was not in our anti-terrorism law. So that was included. You all remember that last year? The amendment? Yeah? Okay, so that was added in there. And of course, it coming from somewhere. So if it's stressed heavily in their law, I mean, really, when the Bahamas just make up no nuclear stuff. But still, it's international standard, so we needed to include that in our law. Possessing transactions that discovered to be OFAC sanctioned can leave the bank exposed to fines. And it's not just a bank, any financial institution. So if you're dealing in transactions that may be discovered to be OFAC sanctioned. So like we gave this illustration earlier where the recipient of the funds may be someone who appear on the OFAC list. And they're like, well, how fast you can say no? I can say no quick. Dude, the information lineup, the recipient of this funds is someone on a watch list. I ain't processing it. Not through my institution, because we could be sanctioned. The bank could be, or the financial institution can be fined. And of course, what's gonna happen for me. I mean, ain't gonna do anything there. You're the compliance officer and you knowingly saw someone who's on a watch list and you processed it. Yeah? And of course, the assets could be forfeited too. The U.S. government, they can, once it hit the U.S. Environment, they can confiscate the assets. Yeah? I've seen it happen before. Poison's trying to send money to Cuba and the monies were forfeited. Remember I gave you all a scenario with me? I remember I gave you all that. Yeah, that one when I was on vacation. Yeah, boy. That never happened since though. After that, no, boy. I crossed my T's, dot my I, never again. OFAC penalties, just so you know, OFAC impose aggressive financial penalties for breaches. So OFAC have a law. You're not going to engage in any transactions for these listed poisons. What do? You don't conduct business for those poisons. It's that simple, right? That's straightforward. But then there were breaches. In 2009, Lloyd's Bank, they had to pay a fine. It's only £175 million for breaches. But they did engage in these types of transactions. That's a tough pill to swallow, right?
I tell you, 2,000 don't look too big though.
No, that ain't nothing to
Missing,
talk about.
missing some drills. Or something.
Yeah, that should be 32 million.
Okay.
Royal Bank of Scotland, only 100 million. They're paying fine. Now remember, these are big banks. They can cut a check and do that. Maybe your institution may not have that kind of flow. They just cut a check and pay off a little fine of 100 million. We see Wells Fargo. I think it's just what every other year they paying 1 billion the other day, and that's our correspondent bank. But when they come in to assess us, they was, you're not doing this. You're not doing that. In the meeting, I said, wow. He telling us, oh, you guys got to do better. Just last year, November, they came in. One of their chief risk officers came in. And he was telling us, oh, you guys got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to go through us, and you got to do this. And I said, wow. Dude, you all just pay $1 billion fine a couple of months earlier? But of course, that's the United States, and we need them as our correspondent bank. Yeah? BNP Paribas, they paid a fine, which was only 8.9 billion. That's our GDP how much times? That could pay our national debt. They just wrote a check to pay off because they had some breaches in 2014. Do you realize that they could just write a check and pay off all our debt?
All of these are US-based companies.
Yes, yeah, BNP. Yeah, man, that's a big bank, big boys. They got money. They could do that.
So the money just goes to the treasury.
Yeah. Like how for us, on a small scale, we have something called the confiscated asset fund. So when we take money from our drug deals and whatever, they're supposed to go in there to fix the roads and all that other stuff. Yeah, stuff like that. Areas concern for us in the Caribbean. This is just some background on that. Cuba have been the biggest one for us as relates to sanction, and more so than Venezuela, because there's an actual sanction against Cuba, and it's actually in law. While Venezuela may be restrictions, this is actual sanction. Restrictions are here, sanctions are way here. Big difference. The U.S. continues to maintain sanctions against Cuba despite the recent easing of tension between the two countries. Remember Obama? He extended that olive branch, but then he ain't power no more. No other country in the world has any significant sanctions against Cuba. Only the United States. Have you ever been to Cuba? Have you ever seen pictures of Cuba?
I've been once.
From the time when the buildings were at that point,
It's like
it just
going back
captured
to
the time.
Like going back
They've
to
never
the
gotten the cars are
in
still the
60s,
same.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure, where do you
That's charming,
find?
though. That's nice. I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to be riding around a 1940 Chevy.
Damn, a little better.
And the buildings are the same state. Like you just took a snapshot, and fast track 60 years later, it's still the same state. I guess, I don't know. But you want NASA to still look the same 60 years ago? Now? Well, it'll be cleaner. But I mean,
Less rodents.
I'm just saying. No other country in the world has had more sanctions against them other than Cuba. Primarily involves U.S. poisons and U.S. dollar transactions. We know that. That's why at my institution, once a year Cuba, don't even come asking me them no U.S. dollars.
So back to the question with Panama. So I can't.
Why? What you want? What you want?
No.
What
Same
asking?
question with the open up a retail store and
You could go. You could do.
you go to Cuba.
Yes, you
I thought
can.
with Cuba.
You can go to Cuba. It's
to
not saying you
Cuba.
can. Yes, you
And
can.
do
You can.
business with.
You can. But at my institution, you can't do it in U.S. dollars through my institution.
So how else
You could do it in
Canadian?
euros. You could do it in
Okay,
Canadian.
okay.
Any other thing. You could do it in Braille. However you want to do it, but it just ain't gonna be.
No problem. You answer my question.
No, yeah, but it just ain't. Panama has no issues because I remember we had conferences there. We went there and bought all kind of stuff when I was at the FIU, and they have free trade zones. I mean, it's just ridiculous where people who like going crazy with jewelry and chain and stuff, but you know, they're snatching your chain and stuff. Then people have chain all over the road. You like, how much for that? $5 US. I said, really? Boy, give me 6 of them, yeah. And they was, I had more chain. You should have seen me. I look like Mr. T. I had more that big fake chain on. Well, look here. What I was talking about again now? Okay, so we're talking about the Caribbean again, in particular Cuba, because that's the biggest threat, because it's the only sanctioned country in the Caribbean. You got restrictions on others, but this is a sanctioned one. Generally, however, the rule of thumb is that persons from other countries can freely visit and transact with Cuba, provided that no U.S. dollars are involved. Can I make that any simpler?
I took US dollars there.
You can take it. People actually bother with you to get it. Yeah, I mean, why you like to live on the edge? What's with you? You like jailing. What's wrong with you?
In Cuba?
Yeah, yes,
So
there's
using
there's
US
some
dollar?
restriction. You could, yeah, there's a black market for that. We remember, the doors are closed. They want limited access for maybe medical reasons. They will lift some restrictions or OFAC approval. They will be limited. But outside of that, there's no trade. Remember, Cuba is communist. And when the Cold War was going on, oh, you with Russia? Oh, okay. That's for being an ally of Russia during the Cold War. Yeah? China is communist. So, but you ain't gonna fool around with China, because China got an army that's almost as big as yours. And you know the Chinese actually own a lot of the United States. If they calling their debt right now, boy, they owe them some. I mean, talk about the Bahamas. We ain't going there yet, because I can't wait for the point there over. But it's employment, man. But I mean, the thing about it, the Chinese, they're more right now more economically advanced than the United States. Even though the United States is the most powerful, you give China next 20 years, they could perhaps surpass the U.S. Even though the United States right now is the economic power, if China calling all the debt right now, say United States, all the money you owe me, pay it off right now. You want to see the economy crumble? So don't mind Trump. Trump got plenty of sense. He ain't gonna go tit for tat with China. So again, with the dollar transaction, ain't nothing happening. So that's a rule. Just remember that, folks. Any other currency, but ain't nothing happening. Yeah. And fines can be as little as $250,000. I mean, it may not sound like a lot to you, but to me, if I cost my institution $250,000, the money's forfeited and a possible sanction, that's a big issue. Yeah? So as soon as I hear Cuba and start saying, but Cuba is, I just drop everything. Like, what's up, what? Someone mentioned Cuba? Someone only got to say, well, I got into Cuba, and they get my attention. And I've been in the wake. So Cuba sanctions, the United States embargo against Cuba is a commercial, economic, and financial embargo. And they got into play in 1960. That's a long time ago. And they still have that. So it's more than 60 years ago. Who got it, Max? That's 60 years. That's 50 years. 50
That's
years.
58.
59 years?
58, 59.
Almost 60. I was close. That's a long time to hate someone, though. Okay. So the Cuba sanction restricts portions subject to U.S. jurisdiction, individuals and entities from engaging in transactions involving Cuba. So when in doubt, refer to your compliance expert. Yeah, who will make that call. And usually it's going to be no. 9 out of 10 times, it's no. Yeah? Poisons subject to U.S. Jurisdiction include all persons in the United States, all U.S. citizens and permanent residents, wherever located in the world. Once you got that green card, the part, that's the same on this. All persons, I can't see that last piece right there. Okay, so all you need to know with that is that, hey, once it's a transaction involving US dollar, Cuba, ain't nothing happening. Amen. Straightforward, yeah? Yeah? But if you take it on, and as a compliance resource or manager, that on you. There can be repercussions. Yeah? Including dismissal. And then just remember this. Just think of Mr. Taylor's scenario on vacation.
What happened with the scenario?
You wasn't here that day, man. Okay, in short, we do have a sanctions program at my institution where anyone, if we get any possible hits, we have to scrub against the name of the client or recipient against our database or any watch list. In this particular scenario, this person, Hector Mendoza Garcia, you know, I remember, right? His name, yeah, some names you just don't forget, boy, you can't sleep. So that particular name, I scrubbed our database, 99 times came back negative. He ain't nothing about this person. So a week before vacation, you know, when you time to go on vacation, what you be thinking about? Vacation. Oh, yeah, darn right. I mean, gosh darn right. So you're only thinking about vacation, right? And I got a request for this person again. And when I saw the name Hector Mendoza, but one other Mexican, well, not Mexican, but Hispanic name was inserted in there. But I said, oh, I know that name, man. I mean, they got to research this one because clock ticking. I need to catch American Airlines. Time to get out of Dodge. Going back to the business and saying approve. All the business want to hear you say approve. Yeah? Because as a compliance manager, they only want to get your approval, your signature. They could care less about you to fall down dead. They only want to get your signature. So I said approve. Going on vacation, home, you're chilling when you're home, how they say, you wear your little capris and your little sandals, and then you ain't cutting your hair, you just chilling, got your little sun kiss, just chilling. So I get a call, I said, Cayman Island, I said, my boss number, what is all about it? Hey boss, what's up? Hey, how you doing? You enjoying your vacation? I said, yeah man, life is good. How they say it, living your best life. So she telling me all this good stuff. She said, oh, let me run something by you. After we know how to chit chat now, she can drop the bomb. Let me run something by you. You remember that name? Oh, you mean Hector Mendoza Garcia? I said, yeah man, what? She said, oh yeah. You approved something on such and such. Yeah man, I know him. Came back as a positive match. I said, okay, a positive match. She said, yeah. So the assets were confiscated. Unfortunately, I was like, okay. So you start thinking now, you're like, everything ain't fun no more. You ain't, everything's starting to get serious now, it's like, okay. So the words that she said to me, and you gotta listen to when how they say, the gift of discernment. She said, I would really hate to lose you. You think about this for a second, you on vacation. And your boss can tell you something like that. So she telling me this right now. You ever heard a episode where everything just like go in a slow motion? And they talking and they're like, and I was like, anything what she said after me didn't matter. And I was like, I mean, like when you say, maybe if I get this straight, when you say like lose me, you talking about like I'm fired? She said, yeah, you catch on quick. I said, okay, I said, but I said, I didn't know what to say. So she said, okay, tell you what, I called in a favor at CIBC Toronto. So I said, I hope so to come back now. I said, So she said, I called in a favor, and we were able to avoid that fine of $250,000 that the institute would have to pay. And I said, okay, all right. So I get a hope that I feel a little better now, your color coming back. So I was like, okay. So she said, you know what? I own you for the rest of your time here at the bank. This is my boss telling me. I said, yes, mom. So she said, I own you. I said, yes, mom. I was like, you need me to come on vacation, do anything extra now? I mean, like, I really don't need vacation. She said, no, you finish that, just let that sink in. I own you. Less than 2 years after that, she left. They let her go. And I said, God is good, eh? So I guess the bill is paid. I guess she go on there, thing. But I say that to say this. Don't take for granted when you check, double check sometimes. Because the one time when you say you get lazy and say as a compliance officer, say, oh, I know that person, I got to check. I just will say, send my email, send approval, whatever. That's the one time when things just go bad, So don't take it for granted. Especially when you're talking about sanctions. That ain't no joke. And she was talking to me and all I was thinking about my mortgage though. I was like, geez. Okay, the house gone. She was just talking and I was like, yeah, you get to the point. What you gonna do? You can fire me or you can keep me? I didn't care what she's saying after that. She's saying, I'll keep you, but I own you. Look at what Patsy's done come to it. So implications for not performing effective screening, like how I didn't effectively screen that person on that 100 time, you have to ensure that you do this. It's called in banking CYA. You have no idea what that means? Cover your assets. Yeah? Please learn from my stupid experience. You don't need to put your hand in fire to know it's hot. Learn from other people's experience. So, when you don't perform effective screening, international banks must comply with UN Act, SEMA, Criminal Code. See all these different stuff. See all this stuff you got to comply with. That's why you need to screen and ensure you're doing this, because you could process something and that person could be on a watch list that you didn't screen. All those lists are there for you to screen. Yeah, I know it's tedious sometimes and you want to hurry up, process it. Oh, you want to show you efficient. Get it right. You rather get it wrong, get it right, or get fired. Yeah? Okay. Sanctions are strict liability criminal offenses because there's no room for doubt over it. It's just, you got it wrong. You process it, there ain't no debate. Strict liability means that's it. Strict liability. When you run the red light, ain't no case. If the police stand and he got the little speed gun and you, and he right in front of him, what you got to answer? You go pay the ticket. Why are we going to court? That's straightforward. Regulators worldwide have intensified their focus on banks and financial institutions which need to demonstrate that they have in place adequate and effective means in performing sanction screening. So that's international standard. You can't get around that, especially if you're dealing with clients who are offshore. It may be a little different if they're domestic, but international, and you will know this from private banking, anyone in here in private banking, international, you don't know that person. They're not customer facing. You depend on an intermediary, you don't know who they are. Whether you're doing your world check, LexisNexis, compliance, do all of that to demonstrate to the regulator and the assessors that, hey, you did do your research. Yeah? And that's all you can do at the end of the day. Cover yourself. Recent fines and sanctions as it relates to sanctioning. This old one, Credit Suisse in 2009, only 536 million. But they could write a check. Then, you know, when you're one of the top 10 big banks in the world, you could write that kind of check. That ain't no big deal. They're like this, hey, Stephen, write that check here. Let them go away. Barclays Bank in 2010, 298 million, knowing and willfully violated international sanctions by handling hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions for Cuba, not just Cuba, Iran, Libya, so all these countries right here are sanctioned. So you knowingly, perhaps it was profitable, you turn a blind eye, and knowingly and willfully turning a blind eye. Sometimes when, as a relationship manager, you got to meet your targets. And it's profitable to the company. And boy, if you are a good relationship manager and you bring in money, sometimes you can turn a blind eye sometimes too, you know. And just pray that nothing come out of it, you know, negative. But you're making money. But the one time the thing hit the wall or wherever it hit, that's the one time when, you know. ING Bank fined, and they agreed to pay a fine of 619 million. That's a lot of money what the government is be getting, you know. The government, the U.S. government and the British government, and they all told me they broke away all the money again. All these fines, you're fining people all this. One fine of 8 billion, if that ever that could pay off our debt. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Standard Chartered Bank fined 340 million.
Taylor, what's the name of the process known as stripping?
Stripping is when you would have a request from a client, and you would knowingly delete like a country, a risk high country. You would knowingly take that off, or the name. You may not put the whole name of the person. You may not put the full name,
all right.
because once it goes through the system, it could be detected as a hit.
Yeah.
So when you strip part of that off, and they do that, say the void detection basically. So you could take some of the key information off, because how the system works, they look for, you could have a partial match, a hit, or a fully hit, so they'll just be looking for certain triggers. And if they see something like, okay, Chavez in there. If you send a wire right now to my institution, they got Castro in it, guaranteed hit, without fail. If you put in the third flaw in that instruction, and it goes through the system, because there's a terrorist group named Third Flaw. You're all aware of that, right? Never heard of that group? No?
That wasn't
You don't
on
know
the-
the terrorist?
that wasn't on the list of terrorists you gave.
We're not finding.
No, so, I think I like the bad guys, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I gotta keep up with my bad guys. But no, I mean, there's so many. But then they'll have matches. It may not necessarily be them, because in the illustration, I mean, that particular wire, it has the institution is located at so-and-so and address third floor, such and such building. Because third floor was in there, all of them, bing, every time I see that, I approve, I don't even look no more. I just turn, but no, I mean, that was before. I got sense. And now I'm like, third floor? Okay. Third floor, Safari Square, Bank Lane. Oh, I know them. Yeah. Because we know. You're comfortable with that. But if you say third floor, Afghanistan, oh, hell, who ain't knowing Afghanistan? You ain't cross parts, he's gonna lose each other. So you got several emerging terrorist networks, just to name a few. Islamic State, ISIS, they have replaced the Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda ain't what they used to be no more. With Osama bin Laden getting killed. You know, his son now is on the watch. His son is now said that he's what they call it, a fatwa. He said now he wants to have holy war against infidels. That includes us too. And they don't like Christians. They say they want to, so he want to take up the slack where his daddy left off. So now he's like, and now they have how much millions they got on him? They got a bounty on his head now to bring him in alive. So if you see him, that's like winning the lottery.
Really?
Now bear in mind, now he may have explosives on him. But if you see him and if you can get him in custody, you're a millionaire. If you live. I mean, think about it, that's an easy million, right? You only got to get him back to the States. And you straight?
Well, they can pick him up if I find him jet skiing.
Well, look, there you go.
Tie him up.
Hezbollah, Palestine, Hamas, Boko Haram. You seen that one with Nigeria where they kidnap all the schoolgirls and all that stuff. I mean, like, they really got, it was a slow day, right? How do you kidnap a whole school, you know? Just so, that's why I'm also, this fellow right here who after Bin Laden, and then when ISIS came out of that, he was the new leader. Of course, with the leader, they would always show the face of the leader because he is the, what they call the public, the face of the organization. He's out there. But for him, he was out there, you know, they still using those VHS tapes. They don't know he was that no more. But while he was out there doing this recording, they had this little thing called a drone. The United States used a lot of those. Fire some Hellfire missiles and blow him up. So he is being replaced with a new leader, a new face for ISIS. Of course, you never see the rest of the army. It's only him because I want you to see me as the boss. See my face. Okay, the CIA saw your face, and then they rain missiles on where you was recording. Don't make no sense, right? But if you did, the good thing about him, I think there was like a bounty of like 20-something million on him. If you found him and he didn't have explosives on him and you could get it, you'd be enriched 24 times. Yeah? But of course he may have had explosives on him. But you can look up on him, Abu Bakr. Some notable sanctions and watch lists. OFAC listing, you know, you're aware of that. The UN security list, the EU list, the UK list. These are just a few. But there's so many lists, and like I said, you got so many, have all them databases open one time, which is a good thing. You can never have too many of those databases that you can tap into, especially when you're talking about sanctioned countries and poisons, and people being added every other day. So don't let the front line pressure you into, okay, approving a transaction. Make sense? You get that comfort level, like, okay, I done check 10 lists, he on the UN list, OFAC list, and I'm comfortable, he on our caution list, whatever, I'm good. But don't just go to Google to put in the fellow name, and I ain't seen that in Google, so Google is good. Google is your friend because it's free. But you probably want to tap into more relevant databases. Make sense? You may have to spend money too at your institution for these databases. They ain't free. Some databases are not free. So if you're thinking, oh, well, I thought it was a free service, you may have the OFAC listing is free. UN list is free, but when you start getting those LexisNexis and Factiva and Compliance 360, you can pay. They ain't free. So you need to factor that into your budget. You control your budgets, right? You do? There you go. There you go. You control your budget at your institution? No? Okay, but you have some say in what you get. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Just get all of those search engines. There are consequences for non-compliance. We're talking about these sanctioned countries and individuals. The FATF, whose purpose is to develop this stuff, they can put you on their sanctioning list. So that's related to blacklisting. That's their strongest arsenal to blacklist you. Yeah? And of course, we know with the Bahamas, we were blacklisted, known as the uncooperative territory. We know about that. And of course, the fight against terrorist financing, we had to pass legislation in 2004. You don't think it would have made sense that in 2000, why we didn't just pass the Terrorist Act one time? Mm-hmm. We waited 4 years later and then they start beating us up again. Oh, you ain't doing this against that. And then we just say, okay, in 2004 we passed that. And then we had to come back again last year to include proliferation. Sometimes we need to be more proactive. If you see some train wreck about to happen, what do? Avoid it. And that's what the government is trying to do now. That's the only thing I'll say positive for them is that, hey, they want to avoid a lot of stuff by arcing a lot of laws right now, you know? Yeah? To avoid these type of blacklisting and being deemed as a non-cooperative territory. Some sanction steps for you guys. It is important that as the MLR or compliance manager, assess the list on a regular basis. You know, even if you just consult it once a week to ensure that it's still current, because I've seen some persons say, oh, I got into the list, and the list may have, as of 2018. Dude, you operate with an old list. Make sure you're looking at the actual list. They have some lists in real time. Make sure you got the full and the accurate list. Yeah? Existing and new customers should be checked against this list to ensure that the business relationship are not opened or transactions undertaken for prohibited individuals and entities. Do you have a system where the watch list is tied into your account opening tool? Do you have one of those systems?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, well that's a good thing. Because if not, then it'll be all a manual process. You gotta go be checking every name against. Yeah, it's better. It's easier when you have it tied in. Yeah. Approval from compliance must be obtained, especially when you're dealing with someone with possible ties. Why? Because you guys are the subject matter experts. They paying you all that money for your signature, and they think you're the expert, so you would have done all the vetting, and we could trust you. So at the end of the day, something go wrong, who are we going after? You are the, basically, you're being paid to be accountable. Basically, that's what it is. Additional KYC information, especially if there's material change in the nature of the activity, is to be undertaken in a relationship. So if there's a change in this relationship with this person, John Brown, you know he's a potato farmer down in Abaco. All of a sudden now you say he wanna send wires to Pakistan. What I gotta do with potatoes? Who you know about? You know Bahamian know no one in Pakistan. Why are you trying to send money down there? What's going on? I don't trust him no more. I need to know what this represent. Make sense? Wherever there's a change, especially as it relates to a possible high-risk jurisdiction, you need to understand the rationale for that. Make sense? Liaise with the financial institution's legal counsel, because even though you're the subject matter expert as it relates to AML and compliance, you would need to seek legal advice sometimes. Yeah? And it's a good thing, because the more expertise brought to the table, and they also protect you too. So I engaged legal counsel and she gave her input, I gave my input, and this is what we jointly agreed to. As opposed to you just saying, oh, I, as the expert, this is what I came up with. Yeah? A different perspective is good sometimes. Make sense? Again, establishing relationships and performing transactions with individuals appearing on the SDN, specially designated nationals, and blocked lists are strictly prohibited. They're there for a reason. If there's a list say, listen here, don't do business with John Brown under no circumstances, what do? You don't do business with John Brown under no circumstances. If it shows up on that list, why you gotta bring a case to me and say, well, what you think? Is there any exception or whatever? Dude, the list says specially designated nationals. The listing is there. Case in point again, Kevin Major, she's on my list of, we will never do business with this person. So why is the staff asking me, well, I heard she changed and she say, who you calling me for? I say, don't call me, I ain't doing business with her, we ain't doing business with her. She is a reputational risk, there's a possibility of sanction, and why are we having a debate? Yeah? Compliance maintains a list of sanctioned and restricted countries. Please ensure that you maintain a list at your institution. Yeah? And it's accessible to all staff. It shouldn't be no secret when it comes down to that. If you're a staff, frontline staff who is engaging in transactions, where to go to find a list for sanctioned and restricted countries. Make sense? Because it ain't make no sense you hiding it, or only you have all the information. Go to the intranet, the bank's intranet, you can go online and you can see a listing, which is populated periodically, who we ain't gonna do business with. You know why? So you won't have no excuse and say, I didn't know better. When you do, go ahead and do it. Make sense? Case study, I go through this real quick. 9/11, everyone know about 9/11. Their primary expenses consisted of tuition for flight training, living expenses, room, board, meals, and all that, insurance and all that good stuff. Monies came from Saudi Arabia, went to their accounts, they used their debit cards, to the ATM machine or whatever. Their transactions were routine and caused no alarm. So if I send money on a monthly base or quarterly, and they, just paying for little stuff like your meals and, that was under the radar. And this was before 9/11. So no one was really checking for terrorist-related activity back then. Al-Qaeda funded hijackers by wire or bank-to-bank transfers from overseas in the United States. No financial institution ever filed a suspicious activity report. There was no suspicion, so there were no flags being raised. So there were no flags. It was under the threshold, and and this was before 9/11. So what you looking for? But after 9/11, oh, I'll tell you this. Not to say I'd be being prejudiced, but everyone from the Middle East who lived in the U.S. and wives were going out. Oh, they were they were inundated with the FIU with suspicious reports. They were like, oh yeah, money going to the Middle East. Yeah, this place. That was the most suspicious reporting they've ever had in history after 9/11. The Middle East, anywhere, they were like, boy, we sending them like crazy. The employment rate at the FIU went up 5-fold. They couldn't keep up. So again, success story. There was one conviction in November 2008. 5 defendants, all leaders of the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development, based in Dallas, were convicted on all 108 criminal counts against them, including support of terrorism, money laundering, and tax fraud. They were accused of funding millions of dollars to the Palestinian militant group Hamas, and they actually wanted to enter into a plea. They said, okay, we'll enter a plea. Yeah, we were sending the money. You ain't got no excuse. You knowingly send money to a terrorist group, and the end would have been what? Utilizing that funds to carry the terrorist act. So that was almost like a straight slam dunk. So that was the one success story that I had. The end. That's how we say it. I have the presentation here because I know I was going through it sort of fast, but I need to touch on one other item before we go. And typically before we go, I also tell you use the last 30 minutes of your time to just go over the material we covered. You asked the question in the last session about the paper that you have to write. There is a paper that you have to write.
The exam?
No, it's a paper. The exam is going to be 70%. I think it's 70%. You have to do class participation where you have to come. That's 10%, and the paper is 20%. There's no reason why you can't get a 10%. You're always here. I got my registers. That's 10%. The paper, that's 20%. So you done what, 30% in? And even if you stagger into the exam, they're drunk, and you get half of that. You automatically pass. Yeah. So we added the paper component, so all the pressure wouldn't just be on exam. So you now have a paper that you can do, which is due on the. I'll tell you right now. It's gonna be. Let me get it now. It's May. I think May. April. Sorry. May 18th. But listen here, we even reached April yet. So this paper should be done way before that. Because I give you all the material. You got the manual. I would suggest to you.
Put the paper on.
I have it right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna give it. I think I only have like 10 copies. So this is 10. You can pass it back. Let me see if I have enough. So everyone will get a copy. So what I would suggest to you is as early as next week, when we do meet again, that we start looking at it. What I would do, we would use the final half hour for next session to look at the paper, and I will give you my tips on what I see from the paper. Is that cool? Or you all just do it by yourself?
That's cool.
Oh.
Start again? Start again.
Next class, what I would do, excuse me, I would look at the paper, and I will give you some tips. Yeah? And I will give you, I'll document my tips. Just like how I give you a handout. I'll say this is my tips. Run with it. But I won't write the paper for you, but I'll give you some tips. I'll make some suggestions, and I'll document it, and you'll get a copy of the tips. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So you can start at least. So don't wait until,
You don't give us the tips with this.
why would I give you tips?
Why you didn't give us a tip with this?
I got a lot of folks right here, I
Oh, okay.
I copied the stuff, I went over and I did the PowerPoint, and you want me to bring the tips to it? Bring breakfast, do it. Jesus rep. Okay, so so next class I will bring some tips. The good thing about it is this, you have all the answers already. That's the beautiful part about it, you already have the answers. So it's just a matter now of applying it and putting it on the paper. And again, as always, I think this is only, how many copies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I may have to make some more copies. And I'm using my paper, so this ain't enough. So 1 or 2 you may have to wait. I'm gonna ask the, oh, the extras? No, I mean, this is the presentation of the day. Yeah, I want, how many questions we got here today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3. I only have 13 copies and 14 of you. Because I guess I can't give no one of them because I poison the feelings if I hate them. So if I,
You know, y'all work together in the same building and y'all can't use the copies? Nobody else works in the same building? No, but I mean, I want to have easy access.
you will?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is the 14, you can pass it back. And so we've got 2 friends right here, they say they'll share. So they seem like they neighbors, I guess. So,
Right, I know, right?
boy, you know what? Y'all breaking up. Y'all next class. One of y'all gotta go to the next group. I tell you, boy. So also one other note, folks. There is gonna be, I'm gonna reach out to Ms. Dean. How y'all feel about this? This is just a suggestion. I think over the Easter holiday, that particular Saturday, I know y'all ain't gonna be here on Easter. So I'm gonna try, see if I can get from Ms. Dean, if you could come in like during the week. Probably do that session, even if it's just an hour and a half, maybe like that Thursday perhaps, or something like that. Because I know, because Friday would be a good Friday. And I know y'all don't want to come here on a Saturday. Because some of y'all gonna be in Florida. Walmart or something like that. Is that okay? Y'all open to that, or y'all gonna still come in that Saturday?
Thursday is okay.
Good Friday. You know the after Good Friday and Saturday. I mean, 'cause some of you might want to be with your family. I hear some of them say they're going on an excursion. I don't know this sort of excursion. So I know. See, there you go. So
I'm still signing the register though.
You registered your own fiscal year, but yeah. So is you guys open to that idea, or you prefer to just to come in on that Saturday?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah.
That Thursday, yeah. Okay, so I'll let Ms. Dean know, and I'll be able to send the information out, and I'll let you know before, so we can do that. So again, don't forget, next class we'll do some tips on the paper, and we can start. At least you can start rolling on your paper. Don't leave that for the last day, because you know once you go in Easter mode, you don't want to be jacking for no paper. That's the last thing on your mind. Anyone else need to register? So having said that, enjoy what's left of your day and go to church tomorrow. All right, so take it easy, buddy. Hey. Sorry you weren't.
I spoke to you the week before the first day.
Okay. Extra one? Thanks. All right. Did you
Yeah, I told her before. So I need the last time.
last week? I don't know if I bought. All right, troublemaker.
Take care.
Do you have an email?
Yes.
I can email it to you.
This one is attendance sheet right there.
No, I'm giving you my email, so you could
Okay, yeah.
email me. And I can email it to you.
Mr. Taylor, I still have to email you.
I noticed that because I said look how he is saying I'm saying quiet like
My laptop now. Yeah.
she ain't the devil.
Okay.